Everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be all about my stats of 2021, basically my last video about all the books that I've read last year. We're going to go and explore, maybe compare a little bit to all my other past years reading wise. So stats people, this is it. I don't think 2021 was that exceptional in terms of stats. There are a few things that are different from past years, but I always think it's interesting to make sure and really determine how my year went, and I can correct a few things if I feel like that might be the issue. I do feel like 2021 wasn't like my best reading year in terms of like finding a bunch of new favorites, but I also improved and didn't have as many like 1-star, for example. So it kind of balanced itself out, to be fair. There's also the whole like Panini thing and my health issues, so I'm still very happy with how things went. So officially on Goodreads, I did include that I had read 88 books. On my personal reading stats, it says 85, you're going to notice it. It's just because I don't include DNFs in my personal stats, but sometimes I'll include them on Goodreads. If it's a book that I had read 50% of, or it's part of certain challenges, so just bear with me with those small changes. Officially finished fully 85. Since I mentioned Goodreads, let's go through the Goodreads stats first. So 88 books, 33,000 pages. Pretty happy with that. It gives me an average of 375-ish pages per book, which I'm very happy. It's never really a goal for me to have like a certain amount of pages read per book, but I never wanted to really go under 350. In the past, I felt like I was reading a lot of really short books, and for like 2 years in a row, I was reading like big books. So I feel like afterwards, I've never had to really focus on reading big books. I'm really happy with that number, no problem there. The longest book I have read last year was Words of Radiance by Brenton Sanderson. No surprise there. It's probably going to be the case in 2022, like the next book in that series, because they're all like 1,000 pages. So no one is surprised, but the shortest book was a novella by Andy Weir. It's randomized, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good. Don't do it. The whole Forward collection contains a lot of like really short books, like 30, 50 pages. I shouldn't even call them books, but yeah. Most popular book I have read was The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which I'm super late. This book has been popular for what, 15 years? Over 4 million people shelved it on Goodreads, so a lot of people know about it. The least popular one was the original, which don't recommend it. Don't do it. Okay, my average rating is 3.3, which sounds low. To be fair, I don't really rate my nonfiction, so I feel like that maybe plays a little bit into it. Goodreads doesn't include 0.5, so I feel like it does make a little bit of a difference, but I'm still okay with it. It's not my worst year, shockingly enough. So I'm pretty okay. Like if you look at all the books that I have read, there's still like a bell curve. Actually, I had only read one book that was 1 star, which was Survive the Night. Don't do it. I do have more 2 stars than some of the past years, but I do feel like some really like popular book I was looking forward to reading, I ended up not enjoying whatsoever, so that plays into it. I still have like a really good amount of 4 stars and a good amount of 5 stars, so I'm overall pretty satisfied with my year considering. And yes, the highest rated on Goodreads is also Words of Radiance by Brenton Sanderson. No one is shocked. I'm gonna put the graph so you can see my reading per month and then like the number of pages per month, which are pretty similar. I don't tend to read like different sizes of books depending on the month or anything. But you can see the first half of the year I did much better the second half, which again, no surprise for me because of everything that's been going on in my life. So I'm overall happy with it. I do feel like I have been in a reading slump on and off. So I am satisfied with those numbers. I have read at least every month, which some months was harder than others. Even December is usually the month where I don't read a lot because I tend to post a video every 2 days on this channel. So it doesn't leave me with a lot of time to actually read, but I did finish some. So genre is one of the stats that surprised me because usually pretty consistently every year, about 50% is going to be like a mix of fantasy and sci-fi. Not this year. It's still most of it, but 41%. That is low for me. But to be fair, I don't feel like I was really in a mood to read fantasy that much. Although if you look at my best of the year, almost half of them were fantasy. So even though I wasn't really in the mood to read them, they still worked for me. And even sci-fi, I feel like I have read a lot less. And I guess I wasn't really in the mood. There's a lot of the ones that I have on my shelf that I've been meaning to, but I'm intimidated and life just happened, really. There's no excuse. It's just like looking at it and noticing that some of the genres, like for example, contemporaries and nonfiction, didn't end up really working for me. Contemporary specifically, I think there's only like 1 or 2 that I end up really liking and the rest not so much. So I think overall it's a genre that I will be reading less and less. specifically the Goodreads reading challenge. I feel like I always end up reading a couple for that specific challenge, and I'm not really doing it this year, / I'm not doing it at least for that section. So I think that will help me with reading slump and just reading more books that I enjoy. In nonfiction, I wanted to mention that I did read a good amount because I finished technically 9, but only one of them was actually science, like hard science, and it's what I want to focus on reading more of, like memoirs and all that stuff. I'm okay with the ones I have read. It's just that I want to try and read more of the ones that I've been looking forward to reading instead of the ones that are popular at the moment. So I just want to try and focus a little bit more on that. Mystery thriller horror, I'm happy with it. It's a genre in general. I just put them all together. It tends to be kind of hit and miss for me, but I'm happy with the number I have read. I ended up reading 5 historical fiction, which is way more than I usually do, which, I mean, 5 is not a big number, but for me, it's more like a 2 or 3 books a year kind of genre. So I did go out of my comfort zone a little bit, and I did overall enjoy them, although I will be avoiding World War II from now on because I have hit my limit. 2 classics, which not a ton, but it's not that bad. I do think that's going to change in 2022 because of my classic reading challenge. If you are interested, we're going to be reading 1 classic every 2 months, which I'm nervous but very excited. I did read 1 poetry, which I never do, and I also read 2 romances, which I'm not opposed to romances. I don't think I was very lucky with the ones I have read, but in both cases I was kind of slumpy-ish and they helped me with that. So they did make for interesting reading vlogs where I got way too invested, which seems to have been popular, so I might do them again during the summer or a future reading slump, really. Age group. Okay, I have read a majority of adult books. I don't think that's going to change. I feel like if you look back at my first 1 or 2 years, it was about 50-50. I am kind of done with YA books, to be honest. I feel like once in a while I'll still find a favorite, but overall I just feel too old, not gonna lie. So I have read 6 YA books this year, and I overall was okay with most of them. Some of them I was just trying to read the ones I had on my shelf. I am actually planning on doing an unhaul version for like my YA fantasy because the shelf is full, but they've been there for like 5 years and I just need to decide, am I reading them or getting rid of them? So yeah, it's probably going to be similar in the future. It's nothing crazy, but you can definitely notice that it changes year by year for me. My star rating, you can see the bell curve basically. Only 1 star, but more 2 stars than average. So I feel like it kind of just, it balances itself out. So I'm okay with that. Page length. Okay. This is what is fun for me to watch every year. I do feel like I read less short books than usual. I'm not unhappy with it. I did still read a bunch of books that were big, aka anything that is over 500 pages. I believe I'm at 14, which I'm happy with. 2 books that were over 1,000 pages. Proud of myself there. Definitely something that I want to continue doing. I feel like it's mostly books that are like fantasy that tend to be this big for me. And I've been trying to like spread the Brenton Sanderson books because I don't have that many left and I'm trying to savor them, but I will definitely be reading at least 1, if not 2 of those this year. So yeah, I'm very happy with my numbers. Usually my biggest categories is between 300 and 400 and 400 and 500, which is the case once again. So nothing that surprising. I feel like 85 books is less than some of my past years, so I feel like it's less crazy of a stat, but still, I'm pretty consistent. Author's gender. I feel like I usually hit 50-50, like male-female author. This year, I also had some non-binary authors and some that were like both genders, so it changes a little bit, the stat, but overall, 56% female authors and 38 male authors, which I'm okay with it. I recently started including the race of authors, just like loosely following if things are changing or not, because I looked back my first year on Booktube and I realized that, well, it was half a year. Within like 50 books, I had read 1 POC author, which is ridiculous. So I have been tracking it, and every year it seems to increase. And this year I was at 27%. I'm not like going out of my way to do anything like that, but I want to keep an eye out on it. So if I end up like 6 months into the year and I have read only 1, I'll know there's a problem with where I'm getting my recommendations, and I'll just like check out whatever genre I'm currently in the mood for more recommendations from POC authors. But yes, I'm happy with that number. Publishing year. Okay, let's look at these stats. I feel like because I've been doing the Goodreads reading challenge the last couple of years, this is my 3rd year, I think, for this one. I have read a lot of books that were published in 2020 and 2021, which no different here. I have read 17 But I am pretty proud that I read 18 that were published in 2021. So I've been really trying to keep up with the new releases to be able to let you know which ones are good. But I always want to balance it out also with older things that maybe you guys haven't heard of, and I can let you know which ones were worth it or which ones should be left in the past. So yeah, you can see that majority of the books that I have read were published in the last 3 years, which not super surprising again with the challenges I was doing. Might be a little bit different this year because I do want to finish a bunch of the books that I do have on my shelves, and I haven't been able to buy new books, so I have to rely on my library for that. So it always depends on the waiting list, but I'm not unhappy with it. It's just fun to look at it, really. One that I personally find interesting, I don't know if you guys do, but I'm always curious to see where the books I'm reading are from. So do I own them? Are they from my library? Are they like ARCs, like advanced reader copies? Last year, 52% of the books I have read, I owned a copy of, which 52, not bad. So it means that 38% were from my library, which I have been meaning to use it more and more. I use 2 different libraries. One that is free and one that I have to pay is $80 a year. So I make sure to use that library, you know, because I have to pay for it. And I tend to use it a lot for new releases and often audiobooks because audiobooks, the waiting lists are shorter. So definitely use that a lot for this. And 9% were ARCs, which I don't even remember ARCs that I've read. Actually, I could look it up because I don't feel like I read that many, but I think it's because it was mostly in the beginning of the year. Yeah, a lot of them were like new releases, which I'm happy about. And their format, which is always interesting to me once again, physical only 31%. Which is very low, I feel like, even for me, but the reading slump really plays into it. I'm also like pointing out to both. So basically, I will try the audiobook, but I might also be reading the physical. I've been really wanting to try more audiobooks to let you know which ones are worth it. And again, the reading slump, sometimes I'm just not in the mood to sit down and read, or I'll try and it just doesn't work. So audiobooks just saved my life this year once again. It was the same thing last year. So 36% audiobook, and then once again, the 13% that is like a mix. And then 20% were ebooks, which I'm kind of surprised. Obviously, again, ARCs are part of that, but I've been trying to get a few from my library, but also catching up to older ones that I've had on my Kindle app forever. I still have a lot to do like that, but slowly but surely going through them. At this point, my question to myself is, what have I learned from my stats this year? What do I want to change? I mostly want to focus for my genres. Not that I want to read more of a certain one, it's just that I want to continue realizing which ones are not working for me. So for example, contemporaries, I think it's not really a genre that works for me. Once in a while, obviously, there are going to be some that will be 5 stars and new favorites, like the torture corn that is A Little Life. That worked for me somehow. But then a lot of popular ones, like book club ones, don't tend to work for me. They just don't. And that's fine. I just need to realize it so I can just stop reading them and just ruining my ratings. And yes, nonfiction, I really want to try and focus on the more like science, physics kind of ones because I'm really interested in them. I just always feel like I'm too tired, but you're going to see soon I'm going to be doing a nonfiction challenge for myself during the year. So hopefully I will be reading a couple that have been on my shelves forever. Like I'm thinking The Emperor of Maladie or The Gene, like these kind of books that are more sciencey, that they've been on there for a shameful amount of time. So it's time. Otherwise, to be honest, I'm pretty satisfied with my stats. Nothing that seems that crazy, but I am curious to see how 2022 will differ. So that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoy the stats. I am always very interested in hearing the kind of stats that you want to see, the ones that you have noticed. Have you noticed patterns basically in your stats from year to year on Booktube? Let me know in the comment section. Thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe. I will be putting more videos on the screen that I recommend you check out. And I will see you in an upcoming video very soon. Bye.